Welcome back to the end of Wild Card Weekend, Monday Night Football edition. I am your host, PropHolliday, also known as Bobby Stanley in the real world, rocking with the GoldBoys. The end of Wild Card Weekend is tonight with the Rams and the Vikings. You have a good idea where I'm leaning, but before we talk into any of that, let's recap a little bit of the weekend. I went 4-0 on Saturday morning show. Joe Mixon anytime touchdown. Isaiah Likely over 28.5 receiving yards. James Cook over 55.5 rush yards. Jaden Daniels over 8.5 rush attempts. 3 of the 4 of those were sweat-free. Mixon scored later in the game. So 4-0 on one unit straight bets. One guy that watched the show, he tweeted me out. I think he parlayed all 4, ended up being like a 11-1, almost 12-1 parlay. I was not smart enough to do that, so kudos to someone who's not me. 2 upsets this weekend, on paper at least. Houston upset the Chargers at home. That game sucked. Nico Collins did get in the end zone, and so did Joe Mixon, so some chalk there. But I had high hopes for the Chargers. I had an NFL future out on them. That has went to shit. Chargers were, most people thought they were still, a year or 2 away. Looks like they are a year or 2 away. I had more faith in Herbert and Harbaugh right out of the gate than probably I should have, but they're going to rebuild that team in the offseason. They're going to pick up some weapons, maybe Tyreek Hill. I don't know. But they're going to be fine next season. Houston ends up getting the Chiefs next week. They are 7.5-point favorites going into Arrowhead. Other upset on the NFC side was an upset that I actually called. Commanders upset the Bucks, winning on a last-minute doink field goal. Baker Mayfield had a very costly fumble in that game that had a big impact on the outcome. Jaden Daniels looked awesome. I thought this was going to be an upset, and so I guess I went 1-on-1 in my predictions on upsets. The rest went pretty much as expected. Buffalo and Baltimore completely rolled. They square off next week. I think Baltimore is 1.5-point underdogs heading into Buffalo. Eagles beat the Packers pretty handedly. Jordan Love looks bad. I guess I had a little bit higher hope on him, but I thought the Eagles were going to win, and they did. They covered more than happily. Saquon Barkley, credit to him for falling down later in the game. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown were chewing him out like, what the hell are you doing? No one's going to catch you. But Saquon did the right thing. He got down. They secured the win. They play the winner of tonight's game while the Commanders play the Lions. I have not looked at that spread. I can look at real quick what the look ahead is on that. But if you're asking me gut reactions to next weekend's matchups, obviously taking tonight's game out of the equation, I think the Chiefs beat Houston. 7.5 seems interesting though. I might take the 7.5, and then I think the Lions just roll the Commanders. Usually, if you see that oh my god wild card upset, rookie quarterback gets out of the first round, they're going to get walked into a buzzsaw in Detroit, who's finally resting and getting a little bit healthier. So I would take the Lions, and I would actually take the Texans with the 7.5. But what's the spread on the look ahead game for next week? Lions are 8.5. Yeah. I'd probably still give the 8.5. I think Lions roll. What we all came for tonight. My Rams are 2.5-point underdogs at home. And the total sits at 47.5. The Rams won 30-20 in week 8, which pretty much kicked off kind of that 8-2 run over the next 10 games. That was the same week that trade rumors started to circulate that Cooper Kupp was going to go to the Tampa Bay Bucks. He was going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Stafford rumors about him getting traded to Miami or the New York Giants started to kick up. The Rams were going to mail it in. The season was over. They started, I think, 1-4. They ended up winning the division. And tonight's game to me is it's an enigma. You can sway me either way. If you take my bias out of it, which you may think is not possible, I'm a bettor. I like to think and a lot of my bets are actually pro Minnesota tonight. You could sway me either way on this game. Let's talk about how we got here. The Rams rested their starters in week 18. McVay believed his guys needed the rest versus getting the easier seed. The easier seed would have been he ends up getting the loser of Lions in Minnesota in week 18 instead of getting the Commanders in the wild card round. Knowing what I know now, I would have rathered the Commanders. Even though the Commanders got a win, I still would have rather played them than Minnesota. The Vikings ended up playing their worst game of the season in week 18, which was the equivalent of a playoff game. Darnold was missing wide open throws. He looked lost at times. He missed wide open looks, like guys who were clearly open what the play was designed for, and he just wasn't seeing it. The kicker was atrocious. Everything went wrong for Minnesota in that game. So you could take that and say, throw it out the window. It can't get much worse than that. Or you could say that was Darnold's first real playoff game, and look how poor he looked. Again, you could play it either way. The line opened up at 1.5. Since the game got moved to Arizona State, It has moved to Vikings plus 2.5. It moved to State Farm Stadium, which is a little weird. Got my tinfoil hat on when you consider State Farm dropped all the California residents policies months before the fires, and then they pick up a playoff game. So little weird thing to think about. The Rams ended the last 3 games of the season where the starters actually played offensively. They looked horrible. You can make the case about the weather in 2 of 3 of those games, but the defense allowed only 10 points in each of those 3, and they ended up getting wins, taking the Jimmy G thing out of it. Let's talk about some fun facts in the matchup. These I pulled from NFL Pro. I try to throw them in here as it may help you shape your same game parlays, maybe shape some bets, but it gets the nitty gritty into the numbers here. Stafford completed 44.6% of his passes when facing pressure this season, 7th lowest in the NFL. The first time since at least 2018 where he produced less than 50% completion percentage while under pressure. He only threw 2 touchdowns under pressure this season, tied for the fewest among the qualified QBs after throwing at least 5 pressure touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 seasons. His matchup tonight, the Vikings generate pressure the 9th highest rate in the NFL at 35%. However, they have allowed the 8th highest completion percentage to quarterbacks while under pressure. So 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. You can make the case that for Stafford, half this season was a revolving door of offensive linemen right out of the gate. It finally started to solidify the back half, and that's kind of when they went on the run. Sam Darnold averaged the 3rd longest time to throw while attempting 73% of his passes after 2.5 seconds this season. That's the highest rate in the NFL. Darnold averaged 2.9 seconds in the pocket, the longest in the league, the longest by a quarterback, according to Next Gen Stats since 2016. The matchup, the Rams defense allows 8.2 yards per attempt and a 42% success rate on over 2.5 seconds this season, both of which are 9th highest in the NFL. Rams defense extremely young. They've done a good job generating pressure, but not closing out with the sacks. Darnold has done a damn good job this year, moving within the pocket, kind of being the quarterback that we projected him when he came out of college. I mean, I think he's an awesome prospect. I was pounding the table as a Rams fan going into this offseason before we signed with Minnesota. This is the guy I wanted to be my successor to Matt Stafford. He already sat in Shanahan's offense. He's young. He was a USC, California kid. It kind of made sense to me. I wanted the Rams to do that. They didn't pull the trigger, and he should be the comeback player of the year. He's an MVP candidate. Take week 18 out of it. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. I hope he gets a contract. The Vikings pressure Stafford on just 11.8% of his dropbacks in that week 8 matchup, the 5th lowest by any defense in a game this season, the lowest by any Vikings defense since 2018. They blitz. Brian Flores blitzes the hell out of you. They were generating pressure like crazy. That Thursday night football game, we didn't see it. Going to be tough to replicate that for the LA Rams tonight. The Vikings did not record a single pressure on any of their 12 blitzes in that game. And when not under pressure, Stafford completed 21 of 30 attempts for 259, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. We're going to know a lot about this game, I feel like, in the first quarter. Are the Rams getting pressure on Darnold? Or is Minnesota getting to Matt Stafford? If you see this early, I would live bet the under. Most likely it's going to get sloppy. If you see one of the two being able to hold up in pass protection, you may be able to live bet and see something there. But the pressure on these quarterbacks is going to determine the success they have, which is a very general statement. But these are very large variances in the sense that Minnesota blitzes the hell out of them. They didn't do a good job of it in week 8. Are they going to be able to do it again tonight? Stafford has not had good protection the first half of the season. It's gotten better the second half. When it gets better, he looks like Matt Stafford, a Hall of Fame quarterback. So we will know early how this game is going. My thoughts overall on how it's going to shape up. I'm a Rams fan. This isn't a secret. I don't feel good about the game. I haven't felt good about the game when the line opened up as Minnesota at favorites in SoFi. I feel worse now that it's been moved to a neutral field. I don't like that it was moved. I thought it should be postponed. The Lakers and the Clippers are expected to play today in LA. Obviously, those are indoor games. SoFi is an open air stadium, but you feel comfortable enough with people commuting to the games that they can go to these games. I understand the timing is different, the circumstances are different. I would have wished they either held off and postponed the game to maybe Tuesday night or Wednesday night and shifted. If you're going to make the argument that this is an unforeseen circumstance, you can't plan for this, then you can make the argument you could push a playoff game 1 or 2 days, especially when one of these, you got a 14-win team playing a team that earned the right to a home playoff game. I get this is how it happens. I don't think it should have played out this way. Um, I don't think the Vikings could look much worse than they did last week. You could also make the case that Darnold looked bad in what was his first playoff start. Maybe he shakes off the rust there. He comes out worry free in this one because he got his bad game behind him. You can make that case. The Rams, what scares me about the Rams is the youth and inexperience on defense. They've given up massive performances um, to skill position players throughout the course of the season. Tucker Kraft, I think, had a career game. Most tight ends have had a great game against the Rams. We'll talk about that. Big play wide receivers. So that's my fear, especially against these weapons against Minnesota. The only thing I feel good about is the better coach is Sean McVay, the better quarterback is Matt Stafford. So the pieces that matter, the Rams have the edge. The defense, I would say the defense and their skill position players are better than the Rams. Um, and they have a little bit less youth out there. So if you're asking me my opinion, I would probably, if you're going to bet the Rams, bet them -2.5. If you're going to bet the Vikings, you can lay the 2.5. I can't bet a side on this game. Take my fandom out of it. But let's talk about my player props, which are unbiased. And I'm kicking it off with TJ Hawkinson over 41.5 receiving yards. I gave this out in the prop shop a couple days ago. I think the line has since moved. It's probably 45.5. You could still play it there. Hawkinson saw 8 targets last week against the Lions, which is the second highest of the season, the second highest on the team to only Justin Jefferson. The Rams are allowing the third most targets and second most receptions to opposing tight ends on the season. And it's a good matchup for Hawkinson. While the LA defense will be doing everything possible schematically to prevent Justin Jefferson from taking over the game, I still think he does. Hawkinson should reap the benefits in the middle of the field. LA boasts one of the youngest defenses. This results, I've seen lapses in coverage, missed assignments, missed tackles. They've gotten better at the linebacker position, but they still struggle in terms of covering tight ends. Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, Brock Bowers, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant had their best games this season against the LA Rams. 41.5 was extremely beatable. Now we know this line's at 45.5. You could still play it at 45.5. So give me Hawkinson over 41.5, aka 45.5 game day line. So I got to join the prop shop, guys. Before we go into my NBA plays, because there is some NBA tonight with some interesting matchups, let's talk about DraftKings, who has a really cool promotion going on right now. We'll talk about that when we go to the touchdown liquor cabinet. DraftKings is making it easier to start betting. Bet $5, you get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. It's that simple. Click the link in our episode description. Get started today. Must be 21 plus, 18 plus in Kentucky or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER to our friends over at DraftKings. I do want to go into, instead of doubling down on this game, just to say lines and sides, I didn't put these out as official plays. I really like Jordan Addison tonight. We talk about him in the touchdown liquor cabinet. I think his receiving yards are at 58.5. I think he could be in for a big game against LA. Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, yes, they're going to see 10 plus targets each, but their lines are so bet up, I don't even want to touch it. I'd rather start looking at touchdown props if we're going to go that angle. Unless you're getting an opening line on Puka or Justin Jefferson, at this point, I would just stay away. Or you want to go alt lines, go 120, 130, be my guest. I'm not going to go there. But I like Hawkinson. I like Addison on the Rams side of the ball. Demarcus Robinson, 20 plus receiving yards, caught my eye. He is still the Rams wide receiver 3. He's been a really good target for Matt Stafford over the course of the season. So him over 20.5 could be had in one reception from him. But let's talk NBA. Going over to Houston and Memphis, my guy Cam Whitmore over 9.5 points. This line has come down. It was at 11.5 the last game against Memphis. It was like 2 or 3 days ago. He went 3 of 14 in his 15 minutes of play. I like this line a lot better at 9.5 for Whitmore. Tari Eason, once again, doubtful. Even if Eason somehow goes at this point, I like Whitmore as the go-to bench scorer, especially with Jabari Smith out. They need that other scorer. They've ended up sliding Amen Thompson into the starting lineup, and he's a really fantastic defender, really good in transition and finishing at the rim, but he can't create his own shot. That is where I like Cam Whitmore in those backup minutes. Memphis ranks 25th, in transition defense, and that's where Whitmore does most of his damage scoring. 37% of his points And even for all this buzz about Whitmore's what is he doing? The way he's showing himself in games, he's dejected, he's not high-fiving people, he looks pissed off, he needs to be traded. Udoka kind of stifled all that a few days ago post-game. He's saying critics are making too much of this. He's still playing hard. He's happy with the shot selection. This is a guy who went 3 of 14. Happy with his shot selection, but he wants Whitmore to focus on the little things, defensively and schematically. So even with no Jabari Smith, I love this line at Cam Whitmore over 9.5 points at -110. And you can have fun with his alt lines, but I'm just going 9.5 on Whitmore. Instead of going with a second NFL play here, I went with the second NBA play. My NBA reads, at least in straights, have been pretty spot on lately. I'm doing fairly well, or I think I'm like on a 14-2 run over in the Prop Shop Discord on just NBA straights. I went with Karl Anthony Towns over 24.5 points. They're playing Detroit tonight. It's -115. I think this line moved to 25.5 probably 10 minutes before the show. I really like eat the juice, go for 25 plus points. I watched yesterday. This is the tail end of a back-to-back for the Knicks. Brunson was seen with a massive ice pack on his shoulder doing the post-game interview. Guy dropped 44. He's currently questionable as of before this show. I'm just going to go to Underdog right now. No updates really. Manuel quickly for Toronto's out. Nothing on Brunson. I think there's a chance that Brunson's a late scratch. Their next game is Wednesday in Philly against the 76ers. You can give him a solid 2-3 days rest depending on how bad that shoulder is. Even if Brunson plays, I still love this line. So if there's a chance he's a scratch, we're getting a steal at 24.5 with Cat. If Brunson Brunson does play, I still like this. So let's dive into it, assuming Brunson does play. 28.5 points per game and a 56 per hit rate against teams ranked bottom 11 in defending the pick and roll. Man, Detroit is ranked 20th in the NBA. 53% hit rate with Brunson in the lineup, just overall, which you love seeing. 56% hit rate against teams bottom half in defensive rating. Detroit is 16th. He had 21 points in 27 minutes against Detroit. I think it was November 1st. It was a 30-point blowout. Not much I'm going to take from that. But he was getting to his spots. He was getting all the shots he wanted in the block. The big thing for me in scoring props, at least with like a top scorer on a team like a Cat or a Brunson, free throw attempts. Attacking teams that put scores on the free throw line helps you if you get a baseline like 24.5 for Cat. It's not, sometimes you'll see these lines where they're averaging 24.6 points per game. You get a line of 24.5. Okay, great. It's not good. It's not bad. That's where the line should be. Sometimes you see those lines, they're 26.5. You're like, what the hell's wrong here? Well, it's the Wizards or it's certain type of matchups. I look at a team like Detroit and they put guys on the free throw line. They are ranked 18th in opponent free throw attempts per game. That makes up 17% of Karl Anthony Towns scoring. Cat went 2 for 3 from the free throw line against Detroit back in November 1st. But assuming he played his normal 34, 35 minutes, I think he gets another attempt at the line. That's another 2 more free throw attempts for him. So let's say 5 free throw attempts is a standard for Karl Anthony Towns. When he has 5 or more free throw attempts in a game this season, he hits this line in 68% of games. All things considered, if Brunson plays, I like this line. If Brunson doesn't play, he's a late scratch because of his shoulder. We get a steal at 24.5. So I like the potential. Go Karl Anthony Towns over 24.5 points tonight. If you can't get it at 24.5, play the 25.5 and lay -30. Before we go into the touchdown liquor cabinet, let's hear from my boy Brad.
Wait, before we get back to the picks, I wanted to thank you all for watching. Friends don't let friends watch videos without hitting the like button. So go ahead and press the thumbs up button and like the video. If you're new here and not subscribed, you should go ahead and do so because we're dropping new content each and every day on the GoldBoys Network. We strive to cover every sport and give out picks and analysis and valuable information for free on the GoldBoys Network. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you can get notified when we drop something new. I'm Brad Thomas. Let's get back to the picks.
Before we go into the touchdown liquor cabinet, we have an update from NBA Underdog Sports at 5:51, so 3 minutes ago. Brunson, shoulder, game time decision. So we still don't have clarity on that. Get in Karl Anthony Towns while you can. I still like it if Brunson plays. I love it if he doesn't. He's a game time decision with that shoulder. From what I saw watching the post game, dude had a fucking softball of ice on his arm. All right, touchdown liquor cabinet tonight. Top shelf. I went Mixon as a 1 unit play on the weekend, and it was a top shelf touchdown score for me. Justin Jefferson, 1 unit, minus 115 over on FanDuel. Same price as Mixon. I think he has a field day with this Rams young secondary. So give me 1 unit on Justin Jefferson. Sorry for my golden doodle going nuts. Let's jump down. It's the only top shelf I feel. I'm not laying the juice on Kyron Williams. I feel good about Puka, but not at the price that we're getting him. It's like plus 100, plus 115. He could be hit. He could be a over the midfield target, or he could not be a red zone target. They usually go Kyron Williams heavy in the red zone anyway. So Justin Jefferson is my only 1 unit top shelf touchdown score in this game. He gets in tonight, no problem. Mid shelf, Cooper Kupp plus 175. Man, I'm old enough to remember when this guy was minus odds, but that was last year, and he was a lot younger and a lot healthier. But Cooper Kupp at plus 175, I would lay a half a unit on. He's still a guy that can find lapses in coverage. He's still a favorite target. He's not the favorite target, but they go super heavy on Puka and Cooper Kupp in terms of targets versus all the other wide receivers and tight ends on the Rams. So Cooper Kupp at 175, even as a red zone guy, I can't dismiss it. Give me Cooper Kupp plus 175. Another guy I talked about at the top, Jordan Addison plus 155. He is blowing up. You're going to start hearing about Jefferson and Addison as they're probably just as good, or will be viewed as just as good as T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Jordan Addison is that good of a route runner, and he's been able to take the top off of defenses. He's going to find a lot of success. He won't get Akella Witherspoon will get Justin Jefferson. He'll get Darius Williams, and I think he'll have a field day. So I like Addison's yards. I'd like him to get in the end zone at plus 155 for half a unit. And then TJ Hawkinson, just a tight end, picking on the Rams and picking on tight ends. I told you guys, I don't feel great about this game. Yes, I'm a Rams fan, but all of my bets are pro Vikings, if you will. So TJ Hawkinson at plus 225, I think over on DraftKings is the best price. I go half a unit on him to finally find the end zone. I don't have a Vodka. I thought about doing 2 touchdown scores. Addison and Hawkinson caught my eye. I think Addison's plus 1,200. If you want to throw $5-10 on it, go for it just to have some, or if you have like a no sweat bet. Hawkinson's like plus 2,200, plus 2,400, depending on your book for 2 touchdowns. Would not surprise me if one of those 2 guys found a lot of success tonight against this Rams secondary. But for me, I got 3 half-unit guys in the mid shelf. I got 1 unit on Justin Jefferson. Total sits at 47.5. That's enough for me. And let's go to the no sweat FanDuel bet for tonight. We do have a not a no sweat. I'm sorry, cross sport bet for tonight. It is 26-1 over on FanDuel. That's why I pulled in FanDuel. It's not a no sweat. It is a cross sport parlay. It's 20 plus 26, 36. Karl Anthony Towns 30 plus. Get it in before the Brunson news. I still like it at 30 plus. Plus 270 on Cat for 30 plus. Jordan Addison anytime touchdown plus 155. Anthony Davis, 30 plus points. He's playing the Spurs. That's another 1 unit play for me over in the prop shop, over 24.5 points. That line may have moved to 26.5. There's no true center, no true post player that can defend on the San Antonio front court. They're probably going to end up doing kind of the Sochan Wemby help defense, but Sabonis went off against them. Jokic went off against them. Anthony Davis with a bunch of rest, 30 plus points is plus 190. These 3 legs, Addison touchdown, Cat 30, Anthony Davis 30, are 26-1 on FanDuel. When I shopped it around this morning, those were the best odds. Get that in before the Brunson news. These 3 legs are my cross sport lotto. Guys, if you want my homer bet before we go, Rams 27-21. 27-21 Rams. And that's Matt Stafford goes full Matt Stafford mode. If the Rams win this game, mind you, don't take my uncertainty out of it. If the Rams win this game, Detroit's going to be pissing their pants. Remember, the Rams went overtime week 1 against Jared Goff. Puka Nacua gets hurt immediately. Rams weren't the same for the next 6 weeks. If the Detroit Lions week after effect is real and the Rams pull off this game, I'm pushing all my chips in against Detroit next week. But we got to get there, and I don't know if we do. I will see you Thursday. We'll keep the momentum going with Thursday shows. I'll be covering NBA, and then obviously we'll be back on the weekend. But thank you for tuning in, and go Rams.